Good day, Industrial Advisors listeners, and thank you for tuning in. If you have not subscribed, please do so by clicking subscribe wherever you podcast. Click the like button and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we put up new content. Leave us a comment about anything we discuss here today or general comments about the show. Now, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Industrial Advisors podcast. We have our 5-minute Friday segment today here in Detroit, still at IAMC. It's been a great conference, and it's a pleasure to have Maureen Donohue Krauss, who is the president and CEO of the Detroit Regional Partnership, with us here today to talk a little bit about Detroit. I will just say I've been super impressed with this city. There's a lot of really cool things here.
Well, thank you. We've been happy to have all of IAMC here this week.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I met you in Florida at the last conference, and you were preparing and pitching already on Detroit. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to Detroit. You were excited and so passionate about it. And I got here, and I will say I see why. So welcome to the show. And why don't you just tell us, what are the 3 dynamic things about Detroit that our listeners should know?
Well, thank you, Matt. It's really a pleasure to be able to have a few minutes to talk about our area. I think what people don't know, and certainly when they come here, they can experience it, there's amazing opportunity, certainly in the industrial sector, because of our tradition and the sort of overall supply chain and ecosystem that's already here. So if a company comes and builds 500,000 or 1 million square feet, they don't have to worry that there's not a tool and die maker for 500 miles. That tradition here supports that type of growth. So we continue to see really strong industrial development here throughout our whole region in the urban, suburban, and rural sections. So that's super important.
Great.
You know, talent is just a big issue for all companies. And our talent is experienced. They have worked in the industrial climate before. We're not taking them from one, industry and converting them to work in a facility, in a factory. So that experience just helps with, shorten lead time to get your workforce up to speed. So we're really thrilled about that we can offer that when all of the sudden talent is just such a big driver. I always say, people used to ask me about water pipelines and sewer pipelines. Now they ask about talent pipelines.
Yeah,
and I think
they do.
Our tradition and, a little bit in our DNA supports that we have that here. The third thing I would say that is really maybe not on a checkbox for an Excel spreadsheet for an RFI, but companies find this increasingly important. It's the diversity of our workforce.
Mm-hmm.
We have not only the city of Detroit is over 80% Black population, but we have the largest Arab population outside of the Middle East in our area.
Wow.
And we have a lot of different ethnic groups that have really built up, whether it's the restaurant scene, which I know you've had a little bit of time in,
Loved it.
Bringing in a lot of very authentic, culturally diverse, opportunities with restaurants and shops. But really, it's that global thought process. Of course, we look across the river, look south on Canada. Sometimes we take that for granted.
Say that again so the listeners understand that.
When you're in Detroit, you are the only place in the United States where you look south on Canada.
Amazing.
So when Steve Perry's singing Born and Raised in South Detroit, he's talking about Windsor, Ontario. That's what is south of Detroit. But, we're used to that international, global nature of work and relationships and business. And I think that is also part of our DNA that sometimes we take for granted because we can go to Windsor, Ontario for lunch.
Wow.
And, we don't think anything of it. They have great Chinese restaurants, for instance. So we'll do that. And more than that, I shouldn't just pick on that. Maybe that's my favorite. But the point is, so it really, lends success to companies who want to think globally because we do that here already.
Excellent. I really want the listeners to be aware of your second point there because it's so rare today for somebody to say their strength is their labor pool because people are having a hard time with that. And then obviously as a secondary piece of you having a labor pool, the diversity of it is huge as well. So that's a huge point because every company we're dealing with, that is number one right now, as you know.
It is. And, it's about what you have today, but what you're going to have tomorrow, because companies make investments for 10, 20 plus years. So while they are interested in who's available today, they're interested in what your pipeline is going to produce. And that just isn't college, although we have the second largest concentration of engineering talent in the country. So that is here. But it also is in just the skill sets, whether it's welders or electricians, all of those other components. We're very rich in that. They show up to work, they stay there, and really help our companies succeed.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, great points all the way around. And it is really, truly a fascinating city. Last question to kind of wrap this thing up, and it's an important one. What is your prediction on the next Detroit professional sports team to win a championship? So you got the Tigers, right? You got the Lions, Red Wings, and the Pistons. So who's going to win the next title?
Well, I should say I'm also a Wolverine, so the University of Michigan is having a terrific year, but
that
that's
is
not
true.
professional.
Yeah.
But go blue this weekend.
Yeah.
You put me in a tough spot because Chris Illich is on my board and he owns the Tigers and the Red Wings. So, boy, what do I say between the two of them? Really, I kind of have to go with the Tigers.
Yeah. I probably would have gone Red Wings and choosing between those two, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, and I got to balance something out because she said go blue. Now, Bill and I are both alumni of Michigan State University, so go green.
It's the best rivalry in town. As I said the other day, while it's a great sports rivalry here, both are committed to producing that workforce in the future and do an excellent job of it. So that's one way they are aligned, but not this coming weekend.
Yeah, it'll be a big one. Well, thank you so much
welcome.
for joining us, and we wish you the best, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
I hope so too. And come back to Detroit. We'll have you visit anytime.
Awesome.
Will do. Thanks a lot.